Emma stared at the leaky faucet in her tiny apartment kitchen, the steady drip 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 echoing like the relentless rhythm of her crumbling life, each drop a reminder of the bills piling up on the counter, the eviction notice she'd hidden in a drawer, and the ache in her chest that no amount of pretending could fix. It was a cold autumn morning in the bustling city of Seattle, where the rain outside mirrored the storm inside her soul, and she had finally caved and called a plumber after weeks of ignoring the problem, hoping it would magically resolve itself just like she hoped her problems would. At 28, Emma had once dreamed of a vibrant career in graphic design, but layoffs had hit her company hard, leaving her scrambling for freelance gigs that barely covered rent, let alone the medical bills from her mother's recent hospital stay for a heart condition that seemed to worsen with every passing day. Her mother, Linda, lived across town in a modest nursing home that Emma could no longer afford, and the guilt gnawed at her like a persistent rat in the walls. That morning, as she wiped away the remnants of last night's tears, her eyes still puffy and red from sobbing into her pillow over the latest rejection email from a potential client, she heard the knock at the door, a sharp, professional, yet somehow reassuring in its timeliness. She smoothed her rumpled sweater, took a deep breath, and opened the door to find a man in his early 30s standing there, toolbox in hand, wearing faded jeans and a worn flannel shirt that spoke of hard work rather than show. His name tag read Alex, Reliable Plumbing Services, and his warm brown eyes scanned her face for a split second before he offered a polite smile. "Morning, ma'am." "You called about a leak?" he asked, his voice steady and kind, with a hint of a Midwestern accent that made him seem approachable, like the boy next door who'd grown up fixing things for neighbors. Emma nodded, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and led him to the kitchen, where the faucet continued its mocking symphony. As Alex knelt down to inspect the pipes, tools clinking softly, Emma busied herself making coffee, her hands trembling slightly as she poured the hot liquid, spilling a bit on the counter in her distraction. She quickly wiped it up, hoping he hadn't noticed, but of course, he hated plumbers, she thought, were like detectives of the home, spotting every flaw. "Looks like a worn-out washer and some corrosion," Alex said from under the sink, his voice muffled but clear. "Shouldn't take long to fix." "You okay there? Need a hand with anything else?" Emma hesitated, her back to him as she stirred her coffee unnecessarily, the spoon clinking against the mug like a nervous heartbeat. "I'm fine," she replied automatically, the words slipping out like a well-rehearsed line from a script she'd been living for months, ever since her world started falling apart. But Alex paused in his work, emerging from under the sink with a wrench in hand, his gaze landing on her face again, this time lingering on the telltale signs of the swollen eyelids, the faint redness around her nose, the way her shoulders slumped as if carrying an invisible weight. "You sure?" he pressed gently, not in a prying way, but with genuine concern that caught her off guard. "Because, no offense, but your eyes look like they've been through a rough night." "Swollen from crying, maybe." "I've seen enough leaks in my line of work of water ones and emotional ones to know when something's not right." Emma froze, the spoon dropping into the mug with a soft plink, her facade cracking like the old pipes he was repairing. No one had noticed, or if they hadn't cared enough to ask. Not her few remaining friends who'd drifted away during her struggles, not the barista at the coffee shop who served her daily latte with indifferent efficiency, not even the social worker at the nursing home who rattled off options without looking up from her clipboard. But here was this stranger, this plumber named Alex, seeing right through her "I'm fine" like it was transparent glass. Tears welled up again, unbidden, and she turned away, wiping them furiously with the back of her hand. "It's nothing," she muttered, but her voice betrayed her, cracking on the last syllable. Alex set down his wrench, standing up slowly so as not to startle her, and leaned against the counter, giving her space but not retreating. "Hey, it's okay if it's something. Life throws curveballs, right? I've had my share. Lost my dad a couple of years back to cancer. Thought I was fine too, but turns out bottling it up just makes the pressure build until it bursts. If you want to talk, I'm a good listener. Or if not, That's cool too. Just know you're not alone in whatever it is." His words hung in the air like a lifeline, and Emma found herself sinking into a chair at the kitchen table, the dam finally breaking as sobs shook her body. She poured out her story in halting bursts: the job loss that came out of nowhere, the freelance work that paid peanuts, her mother's declining health and the mounting bills that threatened to evict them both from their fragile stability, the loneliness that crept in at night when the world seemed to move on without her. Alex listened without interruption, nodding occasionally, his expression one of quiet empathy forged from his own hardships. He shared bits of his life too, how he'd started plumbing after dropping out of college to care for his ailing father, how he'd built his small business from scratch amid financial woes, and how small acts of kindness from strangers had kept him going. By the time he'd finished fixing the faucet, the leak silenced at last, Emma felt a strange lightness, as if sharing her burden had halved it. Alex refused payment, waving off her protests with a grin. "Consider it a neighborly favor. And hey, if you need anything else fixed or just someone to talk to, give me a call." He handed her his card, and as he left, Emma watched him go, wondering if this was the start of something unexpected, a flicker of hope in her darkened world. Little did she know, Alex wasn't just any plumber. He carried his own secrets, ones that would intertwine with hers in ways she couldn't yet imagine. As the day wore on, Emma found herself replaying their conversation, the way his concern had pierced her armor, and for the first time in months, she allowed herself to dream of better days. She tackled a design project with renewed vigor, her creativity sparking like it hadn't in ages, and when evening came, she visited her mother, sharing the encounter with a tentative smile. Linda, frail but sharp-eyed, squeezed her hand. "Sounds like a good man, Ma." Sometimes help comes from the unlikeliest places. But as night fell, doubts crept back. Even could she really lean on a stranger? The next morning brought more challenges, a call from the nursing home about overdue payments, a rejected freelance pitch, and the faucet, miraculously fixed, now a silent witness to her turmoil. Emma paced the apartment, phone in hand, debating whether to call Alex, not for plumbing, but for the ear he'd offered. Meanwhile, across town, Alex couldn't shake the image of Emma's tear-streaked face. He'd seen too many people suffer in silence during his rounds, but something about her resonated deeply, stirring memories of his own isolation after his father's death. He decided to check in, but fate intervened first. A burst pipe in a nearby building pulled him away, reminding him of the unpredictability of life. Back at home, Emma's resolve strengthened. She applied for more jobs, reached out to old contacts, and even started a blog about her designs, pouring her emotions into art. Yet the wait persisted, and by evening, she dialed Alex's number, her heart pounding. "Hey, it's Emma from the leaky faucet," she said when he answered. I could use that talk." Alex's voice warmed through the line. "I'm glad you called. How about coffee tomorrow?" And so began a tentative friendship, built on shared vulnerabilities. As Emma opened up more about her fears of failing her mother, of never reclaiming her dream set, and Alex revealed his own battles with grief and the pressure of running a one-man business, weeks turned into a routine: coffee meetups where laughter mingled with tears, walks in the rain-slicked parks where they dreamed aloud, and quiet evenings where silence was comfortable. Emma's designs gained traction online, a small commission here, a viral post there, easing the financial strain slightly. But her mother's health dipped, a scare sending Emma to the hospital in panic, where Alex showed up unbidden. Having seen her frantic social media update, he sat with her through the long night, his presence a steady anchor. "You're stronger than you know," he whispered as dawn broke, her mother stabilizing. In that moment, Emma realized this plumber had become more than a fixer. He was mending her heart. Yet secrets loomed. Alex hadn't told her about his double life, the inheritance from his father that he'd invested wisely, turning his plumbing gig into a cover for his burgeoning real estate ventures. He feared it would change how she saw him, but as their bond deepened, the truth simmered beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment. Ma, too, held back her growing affection, scared of vulnerability. Chapter 1 closed on a cliffhanger of sorts, with Emma receiving a job offer that could change everything, but at the cost of relocating, forcing her to confront her feelings for Alex just as a misunderstanding threatened to pull them apart. A misheard conversation leading her to believe he was seeing someone else. The tension built, hearts on the line, as the story poised for revelation. The job offer email glowed on Emma's laptop screen like a beacon in the dim light of her apartment, promising a senior designer position at a prestigious firm in New York, complete with a salary that could wipe away her debts and secure her mother's care. But it meant leaving Seattle and Alexa behind, a prospect that twisted her gut like a wrench on a stubborn bolt. It had been 2 months since that fateful plumbing call, and in that time, Alex had become an integral part of her life. The coffee dates evolving into shared dinners where he'd cook simple meals in her kitchen, laughing over burned toast and stories from his childhood on a farm in Iowa, where fixing things was a way of life. Emma had confided in him about her pasta-failed engagement that left her wary of trust, the pressure of being the only child to an ailing parent, and he'd shared his dreams beyond plumbing, hinting at bigger plans without revealing the full extent of his success. That afternoon, as rain pattered against the window like impatient fingers, Emma wrestled with the decision, her eyes once again swelling from unshed tears, the familiar ache returning. She hadn't told Alex yet, fearing his reaction, but fate, as it often did, intervened when he dropped by unexpectedly with the bouquet of wildflowers he'd picked from a park, his flannel shirt damp from the drizzle. "Thought these might brighten your day," he said with that easy smile, but his eyes narrowed as he took in her disheveled state. "You okay? Eyes look swollen again like you've been crying." Emma laughed it off, a brittle sound. "I'm fine, really, just allergies." But Alex wasn't fooled. He set the flowers down and pulled her into a gentle hug, his arms strong from years of manual labor, whispering, "You don't have to be fine all the time, Emma. Let me in." And she did, collapsing against him as she spilled the news of the job offer. The excitement mingled with terror of change. Alex listened, his heart sinking at the thought of her leaving, but he masked it with encouragement. "That's amazing. You deserve this. New York could be your fresh start." Yet inside, turmoil brewed. He wanted to tell her everything, to offer solutions from his hidden resources, but pride and fear held him back. As they talked late into the night, wine-loosening tongues, Emma admitted her growing feelings. "You've been my rock, Alex. I don't know if I can leave that behind." He cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. "Then don't stay, or let me come with you." The words hung electric, leading to a kiss that sealed their budding romance, passionate and tender, born from shared pain. But the next day brought complications. A client meeting for Alex that revealed his secret when Emma, stopping by his office, a modest garage setup, overheard a phone call about a multi-million-dollar deal. Stunned, she confronted him. "You're not just a plumber, you're some CEO in disguise." Alex sighed, explaining, after his father's death, he'd inherited a small sum, invested in properties, and built a real estate empire, but he kept plumbing as a grounding force, a way to stay connected to real people amid the corporate world. "I didn't want you to see me differently, to think I was helping out of pity or wealth. I care about you, Ma, not what I have." Hurt flashed in her eyes. "You lied. How can I trust this?" A heated argument ensued, words like daggers, Emma storming out into the rain, her world upended again. Days of silence followed, Emma packing for New York in a haze of confusion, her mother's words echoing, "Forgive, dear. Everyone has layers." Alex, meanwhile, threw himself into work, regretting his secrecy, realizing his fear had cost him dearly. He visited Linda at the nursing home, seeking advice, and the older woman smiled knowingly. "My girl needs someone who sees her tears and stays." "Show her that." Inspired, Alex arranged a surprise, paying off Linda's bills anonymously at first, then revealing himself with the heartfelt letter delivered to Emma's door. "I was wrong to hide, but my feelings are real. Let me prove it." Emma read it through tears, her resolve cracking. She called him, voice soft. "Why the disguise?" He chuckled ruefully. "To feel normal. But with you, I feel seen." They met at their favorite park bench, rain clearing to sunshine, where apologies flowed like the new fixed faucet. "Stay," he urged, "or let me help you here." But Emma had decided, she'd take the job remotely, a compromise the firm offered, allowing her to build her life in Seattle with Alex by her side. The reunion was sweet, a promise of partnership as they navigated her career boost and his business growth together. Months later, Emma's designs flourished, her mother's health improved with better care funded by Alex's quiet support, and their love deepened. Wedding bells on the horizon. Alex proposed under a starry sky, ring simple yet meaningful, whispering, "From the day I saw your swollen eyes, I knew I wanted to dry your tears forever." Emma said yes, her eyes shining, and not from crying, but joy. Their story became one of resilience, proving that vulnerability invites true connection, and sometimes, the person who fixes your sink mends your heart too. As challenges arose, a business setback for Alex, a creative block for Emma, they faced them united, their bond unbreakable. In the end, Emma reflected on that first encounter, grateful for the plumber who saw beyond the facade, turning "I'm fine" into "we're better together."